everyone, it's JG here with E5DU University, back for another teaching where you are the light, the path, and the way forward, friends. Welcome to my channel. I'm so happy you're here today. Today we're going to be talking about raising your consciousness and what that means right here today in 2024, as we are all being impacted by the energy of really grounding our spiritual nature on earth. Really grounding what it means to be a spiritual being having a human experience. And so when we begin to sort of unpack our daily reality, right? What happens to us on the regular, on the daily, and we want to influence our lives through what we've learned through manifestation, through what we've learned through the basic tools and principles of energy, we begin to be faced with the truth, right? Of who we actually are, right? And so we're learning to love ourselves. And when we're looking at different dimensions, okay, when we're looking at different points of view. So we all have a certain way of perceiving life. And that is through the lens of our point of view. That is through the lens of how we see ourselves and how that is reflected in the world around us. And actually how that was also mirrored to us. When we're looking at dimensions, we are looking at a POV, a point of view into reality. And that is based on how you see yourself. It's based on how the world was reflected to you as a tiny child. So when we begin to hear the truth of how a lot of people lived on earth as children, in the media, a lot of famous people have come out and begun talking about themselves, right? And what they suffered. We begin to sort of normalize our own experiences, right? And we begin to see that some of the things that happened to us and that were reflected to us as children aren't really the truth of who we actually are. We're actually worth, and we are so much more valuable than we think. A lot of what we have to do now as an adult is to unpack the experiences that we had as a child and reframe them so we're able to live our lives from a place of knowing our value and our human worth. Because I'm going to keep saying this a lot, and it's been in my experiences, no matter how many manifestation tools I use, or no matter how much energy I understand around me, and influencing energy and using my mind and using my body and using the tools that I know to influence energy, unless I truly see myself for my own value, it's going to be very difficult for me to understand cognitively why I deserve good things. Because when we are little tiny people and we're just being brought up in the world, a lot of times the people who took care of us, mother, father, aunt, uncle, cousin, teacher, minister, did not have a very positive self-esteem. They did not have their own very healthy life. And as a result, like 9 times out of 10, a lot of us had very difficult childhood. We were treated in a certain way that didn't help us to understand our value. So our parents led and taught us oftentimes by fear, right? Or they oftentimes taught us through suffering, what we are, what we want to be, and what we don't want to be. And it's our job now as an adult, no matter how old you are, to begin to take responsibility for your own self-worth and your own value. How do we manifest joy? How do we manifest wealth and prosperity and good treatment? And good treatment, how do we manifest treating ourselves well? How do we love ourselves? How do we accept 5D experiences, meaning a higher point of view experiences from this higher dimension? How do we receive those experiences and allow them to stay in our lives, allow them to nurture us when we don't really like ourselves, when we don't see our own worth and our own value? That is, I feel, the crux of 90+% of most of our problems here, is like we have no idea how worthy we are. We have no idea how valuable we are. We see ourselves as less than. And it's because someone treated us badly. And fear and rejection and loneliness and pain becomes our mode of operation, our modus operandi. And what happens when that takes hold of us is we feel depressed, right? We don't feel worthy, and we don't feel and see and experience truly how valuable and loving and beautiful we are as people. And so we develop all kinds of mechanisms of coping. We tell ourselves all kinds of stories to sort of get out of this depression state, to get out of this state of feeling small and unworthy. I'd like to give you permission today and just to kind of call attention to the fact that you, my friends, and the people around you that you love, and even those that you don't love, we all have the human basic right to understand that we are valuable. And no matter how badly a parent treated you, no matter how neglected you were, no matter how unimportant your feelings felt, no matter how unimportant you felt as a child, as an adult, you can reclaim your own sense of worth and value. In fact, it is necessary. So we see a lot of people who are famous in this world. Musicians, artists, actors, sports figures, put on a pedestal, really suffer because other people put them on a pedestal and they are worshiping this person. And the person doesn't see their own worth and value. And they might turn to drugs or alcohol, or they might hide, or they might just really struggle with who they really are because the world is defining them in a certain way. And that certain way is not congruent with how they see themselves actually. That's just one example of how humans struggle to see their own value. So it must come from within you. Even when you're looking for a partner or a spouse, or you're trying to heal a relationship at work, or you're trying to heal a relationship with your siblings or your children, until you understand your own worth, until you understand that you are valued beyond what anyone ever mirrored to you as a child, you have to find this in yourself. You have to find your own value outside of what someone told you you are, outside of how someone rejected you, or outside of how someone didn't care for how you felt. Maybe no one cared for how you felt. Maybe no one cared that you were crying. Maybe no one cared that your needs weren't met. I mean, there's all different levels of this. It can be all different forms of neglect, right? All different forms of not understanding our worth and our value because the person and the caregiver who was responsible for us couldn't give that to us at the time for their own reasons. But I just really want to tell you today, and I want to remind you that it is possible to reclaim your worth, and it is important that you do so as you're starting to manifest things that in this world, material things, relationships that you really want to keep, that really reflect who you are, and that really reflect the person you want to be and the way you want to live on earth. Because if it's hard, it's difficult not to love ourselves and hold on to really good things because we simply don't believe we deserve it. And so we want to get off that wheel of not knowing our value. We want to get off that wheel of depression and sadness so that we can own our value. So sometimes it's so painful for people to begin to love themselves. It's like literally painful because it's easier to stay in a relationship with someone who like mirrors to you how messed up you are. So this happens in a relationship and the man's mirroring to the woman, this is just one example, all the ways she doesn't love herself, right? She's like, let's say from an abusive family, most people have some degree of abuse in their childhood, and they meet someone who they marry or they get in a serious relationship with that reflects that pain, that reflects the suffering that they mirrored, that they saw, and the adults that were taking care of them. And then this person becomes a reflection of this woman's low self-esteem. Same with a man. Man has a low self-esteem. He marries a female, a woman, who, doesn't matter actually which gender we're talking about here, but they marry someone who reflects their pain and that reflects the pain of their childhood. And that person is just like in their life reflecting and showing this person how they're not worthy. And I understand what this feels like. They're reflecting to this person what they're not worthy of, right? They're reflecting to them, oh, you're so messed up. Oh, and they treat you with disrespect, right? And you take it because you somehow believe that that's all you deserve. So to turn that train, to slow down that train, and first you have to slow down the train of energy you're on. And then once the train slows down, you can begin to change direction on a different track, right? But sometimes we have that train moving so swiftly in one direction, and we're just on that train with people surrounding us that show us that we're not worthy. But my goal for you is to kind of alleviate yourself from the depression and the low self-worth and the low perception of your human value by owning it yourself. And just, whether you believe it or not, you begin to tell yourself that you are worthy of love, that you are worthy of being treated with kindness, and you start with yourself, right? And so that is my call to you today, is to reclaim who you are and your worthiness. Again, it doesn't matter what your parents told you you were, or your auntie or your uncle or your teacher. It doesn't really matter anymore. It never really did. But we have no other way of knowing ourselves than through the lens of what people told us we are. So my call today, guys, is to own your power, own the truth of who you are, to own how you see yourselves and what you call yourselves. And your depression is going to lift as you begin to truly know who you are and you know your value. So before you can manifest things and keep them for long periods of time, right? I invite you to change your point of view on your worth. Change your point of view on who you're listening to regarding your worth. Because it is possible and probable for you to change your point of view on who you are, and then change your perspective on life. And suddenly you're looking through a lens of your worth and your value, and life changes around you. And the things that were so heavy in the third dimension become very easy, and the depression lifts, and you're no longer afraid of who you are, because you know the truth, that you're valuable and you're beautiful and you're powerful, and there's no one as powerful as you. No matter how scary these people seem, or no matter scary how that illness seems, or no matter how scary that oppressor seems, you are the source of power. You are the light and the path and the way forward. So that's what the message I have to leave you with today. You can do it. If you need help with your own program and coaching, I offer coaching, and the form to fill out is on my website. And I want nothing more than for you, no matter where you are in life, whether you're a public figure, whether you are not a public figure, whether you think it's just little you are worthy of change, and you're worthy to live your very best life. We all are. And as we change individually, this planet changes too. So much love and light, guys. I hope this has assisted you. Make sure you leave a comment below. I care about how you feel. Make sure you like it if you like it, and pass it on to your friends. Take care, guys. Lots of love.